What's up and good morning, War Report family. It's your guy, Ike Jones. We're back with another morning drop, finishing off Athlon's SEC all transfer list. This time talking about the defense. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report.
Morning drop. We are here Wednesday morning, June 28th. Your guy, Ike Jones, Mike G, in the place to be. Talking some more Auburn football. Athlon, as we talked about yesterday, put together their all transfer list from the SEC. So these are the top transfer acquisitions across the Southeastern Conference. And we talked yesterday about the offensive people that were on there. Quite a few Auburn Tigers there on the offensive side of the ball. Now, Coach Freeze and company had a lot of transfers in on defense. However, not nearly as many of them appear on this list. Is that something we should be worried about? They don't feel like we got quality transfers. The other transfers are better. I don't know. I don't know what assumptions we can or conclusions we can draw from that, from what Athlon's saying. But not a lot of defenders on this list. Anyway, Mike, how you feeling about all this morning, man?
Feeling pretty good. Listen, media days is coming, so it'll be interesting to see who on defense is attending media days, so that we can talk a little bit about who those leaders are going to be. Will it be one of the transfers? Will it be one of the incumbents? We're going to be bringing you live from Nashville, talking about that for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We haven't talked about this. Let's just talk. Let's just have a group meeting right here on the live this morning.
Let's talk about it.
Are we gonna do morning drops from Nashville? We're gonna do drops down there from the Hyatt.
I think we are. I think we're gonna do something from Nashville.
Okay.
We're gonna do a lot of stuff from Nashville. So.
We're gonna do a lot of things. But are we gonna drop? We're gonna drop it on them?
Well, I think we're going to drop it on them every morning from the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. So if you are not a Patriot member, you should become a Patriot member in anticipation of our Media Days content. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be there all week. So Hugh Freeze goes on Tuesday. And for those of you who don't know, it's Monday through Thursday. Every coach will go. But the War Report will be covering it all. Every coach. We're going to be in the room asking every coach your questions. So make sure you hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you want us to ask them about. And we'll be sure to try to get your questions in.
Do you feel like the whole spring game question has lost steam now since when Coach Hugh Freeze first introduced this idea? Like, do we still want to talk to them about that, or just let it ride?
Absolutely, it's lost steam, man. Like, listen, dude, people have moved on to what this is going to be. Peyton Thorne is on campus now. Ike, people want to know what's going on at quarterback. People want to know to some extent.
Well, I'm not saying ask Coach Hugh Freeze about it. We know where he stands. I'm talking about, do we want to ask the other coaches in the SEC how they feel about it?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, last year, I got a chance to ask Kirby Smart about his spring game. And, what was going on there. And he told us straight up, man, we're not having a quarterback competition. Right. Stetson Bennett is the guy. So this year, they should have had a quarterback competition. And I'll be excited to ask him about that. Does our guy Joe Milton at Tennessee, is he got stranglehold on that job? What's going on at Florida?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about, and we're completely off the topic right now. It doesn't matter. We're into chaos mode right now. Just because there aren't a lot of defenders for us to even talk about on this list. And we will get to that list in just a moment. If that's the main event that you came here for, hold tight. As a matter of fact, while we are off topic, go ahead and share the video so that when your friends come in, we will have wandered our way back to the topic. So share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Y'all know how to do all of those things. But listen, I don't know what the quarterback rooms are looking like in places like Tennessee. Like, is Joe Milton the guy? Because Joe Milton was the guy when he first got to campus, and then all of a sudden he goes out there and he plays kind of. Does Josh Heupel have another guy in his back pocket in case Joe Milton's not ready to step into the spotlight again when his number's being called next year? That's good.
Right.
Good thought. I don't know.
We don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, how these coaches are doing the math and the calculus, because having an incumbent is so important. Having a guy who understands your system. And look, Joe Milton had a really good end to the season after Hendon Hooker got hurt, right? And, there's going to be some teams that have some question marks there. I've got plenty of questions for Nick Saban in Alabama about what's going on at quarterback. They went out and got the Notre Dame transfer, but does Milroe have a chance to still be the guy there? And how short is the leash going to be on whoever wins the job at Alabama? I mean, they legit haven't had a question at quarterback in like 6 years.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, Tua and our guy Jalen Hurts, man. Yeah. I mean, that was as much of a quarterback controversy as they've had since like 2017, 2016. So, like, I mean, it's just going to be really interesting to watch, I think.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to watch. Okay, anyway, we have exhausted wandering off the topic. Let's get back to the trail in which we blazed this morning, which is Athlon Sports and their SEC all transfer list. Make sure I'm saying this is not an all SEC list. This is the transfers or the top transfers at every position into the Southeastern Conference or to a new team in the Southeastern Conference. The list for defenders for Auburn is as follows. This very long and exhaustive list. You guys bear with me as I read off all of these names. Defensive line, Justin Rogers. Edge, Elijah McAllister. End quote. That's it. They expect guys to be impact players along the defense for Auburn. Any thoughts on the fact that so few are on here? Now, again, we've had, we could roll off the list of names. Austin Keys, Demario, Jalen McLeod, Nasili Kite, the defensive lineman, Lawrence Jackson on the defensive line. What's the other kid from Liberty whose name is escaping me right now? But yeah, we could roll off the names. These are the two that made the list for Auburn. Thoughts first and foremost on these two that we have here: Justin Rogers, Elijah McAllister.
Well, Elijah McAllister was a big pickup, right? For Hugh Freeze, and Justin Rogers, same. I mean, Justin Rogers was, this was it was huge when they talked about it this spring when he came over. So along that D line, they're going to need to bolster what they're doing. And you had some notable exits, Isaac, on the D line with Thanos gone. And, some of these guys that got out of here, right? So you bring in Justin Rogers, and in the spring, what did Hugh Freeze say? He's going to be a guy that's going to contribute. Like, he's a load, man, in the middle of that D line. And it was a huge pickup for Auburn. Now, linebacker has been an issue. So the D line being able to stop guys from getting through to that second level is going to be super important. Elijah McAllister at the edge. I think he's gonna be playing some Jack. Right? He was a candidate for Jack, and we know how important that position is in Ron Roberts' defense. So we've talked about that ad nauseum on the show. These are guys that they expect to contribute. Now, Auburn may not have a ton of guys on this list, but the two guys who did make it, I think, are dare I say, instant starters.
Listen, they're both coming from other SEC schools, so it's not as if we have to worry about whether or not they're used to the level of competition in the SEC, albeit they both come from the SEC East. Vanderbilt and Kentucky, nobody is mistaking either of those for powerhouses in football. However, it is not one of those things where, like, you have the question mark of, does this guy know what it's like to compete in this conference? They absolutely do. And both of them have had a lot of starts, right? They've had a lot of snaps. So it's not as if they were end of the bench guys who never saw the field, right?
That's
so
right.
You're talking about guys who have had quality SEC starts, quality SEC snaps, and they're going to come in and they're going to pay dividends immediately. I would say, outside of health, there's no reason why you don't see both of them in the two deep when that's announced at some point in time.
Right. I like the point that you're making about having the feel for the SEC. These are guys that are not going to be intimidated by playing in SEC environments as well, too. Right. Now, Justin Rogers has come from the East, right? And over in the East, things were a little easier, I think. But this was, I would dare say, a little bit of an up year for the East. This past season, and then Elijah McAllister coming from Vanderbilt. Oof, man, what a change of environments. I think that he will thrive on the crazy home environment that will be Auburn University and Jordan-Hare Stadium, and it's gonna be great for these guys. They won't be scared of the moment.
Yeah,
they won't be scared of the moment. If anything, they will feed on the energy and the enthusiasm and what it's like to be at a program where football matters. Now, I'm not saying football doesn't matter at Kentucky, but let's be clear, it doesn't matter like it matters at Auburn.
No, it's not. It's not.
And Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt, right? So, like, I mean, we're not making an argument there. Yeah, right. It's definitely not the same down there. So, this is going to be great. I think Athlon got these two right. I think they got these two right. Especially Justin Rogers was a no-brainer. Elijah McAllister coming from, a school like Vanderbilt, he's a smart kid too, man. He's a guy who should fit right in and understand concepts and processes really quickly and be able to contribute at a high level, not only physically, but mentally as a leader on that defense.
Yeah, I think, to your point here, the experience that they have is not going to make it where environments are going to be overwhelming. And I think this is a thing that gets slept on a lot when you talk about what actual quality depth is having guys who've just kind of been there. Now, whether they've put up a ton of big numbers over their career, guys like this just tend to show up in big moments, though, because moments don't feel too big for them because they've been in those types of wars before. They've made big plays before. They've seen the level of competition before. So hopefully they will be able to come in and be instant contributors. I have no doubt that is the plan for them on this defensive side. But let's pivot here and talk about here on the Rogue Shop's Morning Drop about a little bit of what's on the list but doesn't include Auburn Tigers, right? So again, they did this for every single position. So others to watch, though. We had some people on the others to watch list here. So let's go through here and look at first and foremost defensive line. Of course, Justin Rogers. Then you had Trahan Jeffcoat at Arkansas, Caleb Banks from Florida, and Isaac Ukwu at Ole Miss. Isaac Ukwu, notably someone that Auburn was after on the defensive line as a potential defensive end / jack defender out of James Madison, makes the list for Ole Miss. But you do have Lawrence Johnson from Purdue, who I mentioned earlier. I think I said Lawrence Jackson. I apologize, Mr. Johnson, from Purdue, that is on this list. But Nasili Kite not listed here as others to watch. Interestingly, the transfer from Maryland that came in to Auburn. Any thoughts about that defensive line being Isaac Ukwu and then Lawrence Johnson actually being on there, others to watch?
Yeah, not really. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the others to watch list, right? Like when you look at the others to watch list, these are guys who you are uncertain about what their role is going to be, right? Or they're guys who, again, they're going into situations that may be a little bit more uncertain. So when you compare them to guys like Justin Rogers, I mean, there's no question Justin Rogers is going to play. He's going to start, right? I think the same feeling about Elijah McAllister. For a lot of these guys on the others to watch list, Isaac, it's, you're watching not only them, but things around them.
Right.
Like what is their team doing? What are their coaches doing? What is their role going to be really, in the defenses that they're stepping into. So, others to watch is just that, man. Just watch and wait and see what happens with those teams. I think it's interesting. Teams like LSU, right? They've got 5 stars everywhere.
Right.
People forgot how much talent Brian Kelly inherited, because of the mismanagement that was going on at the end of the Orgeron period. So like others to watch, maybe more interesting at schools like LSU, where they have levels of 5 stars and 4 stars. And they've been recruiting at a high level. At Ole Miss, I'm not so sure, right? Like, I'm not so sure. I mean, as you like to say, you broken ugly. I think they're still in that category of just not a whole lot going on.
Broken ugly is something that you can't fix without surgery. So if you broke, I don't know how you afford it. So
all right. So they got an NIL BBL fund going on down in Ole Miss.
That's actually so true, bro. Like they went and they splurged to try to make people believe that they were no longer broken ugly.
Yeah, I'm beautiful. Look at my BBL, right? And so, there's a lot going on down there. Alabama, again, one of those schools where they've got levels. So when they take guys, I think it is notable because if they feel like you can contribute, I know we're talking defense, but on the offensive side, they went out and they took a quarterback. There's no way that's not notable at a place like Alabama. I think the same defensively, they've been putting out defensive guys at such a high level. When you look at them and they go and they take somebody defensively through the transfer portal, you've got to think either they think very highly of that kid or there is actually a great need at that position based on how they've been recruiting. So, I think that's where the others to watch gets interesting. Right, is at the schools where they have talent, and they went out and they got a guy.
Right.
So that's what I'd be watching. At places like Ole Miss, I just don't know. I don't know that it matters, right? Like I just don't know that the others to watch matters. But I'm definitely watching it at A&M and LSU and Alabama for sure. Right.
Well, here's the one that I think most Auburn fans are going to be interested in. We didn't bring in, that I can even remember, any notable transfers into the defensive backfield room. And they have specialists on here, but they didn't list returners. So we're not going to talk about that because we didn't have any transfers in there in that space. So we won't talk about safety. We won't talk about DB because there's nothing interesting really there. The other place, I'm going to save the biggest one for last, which is linebacker, but we'll go to the edge rusher position. And of course, Elijah McAllister made that one. They made mention of the kid from Appalachian State, Jalen McLeod, on this as a potential guy who I think he probably should have been in the edge rusher, but they listed him in the linebacker situation. But let's talk about linebacker for a second here before we transition it over into getting into the comment section, because there were no Auburn Tigers on their immediate list. Omar Spates at LSU, Antonio Greer of Arkansas, Monty Montgomery, which seems very redundant. I don't know who was naming him because Monty is usually short for Montgomery, so his parents named him Montgomery. Anyway, at Ole Miss, and then Tresman Marshall at Alabama, transferring over from Georgia of all places, make the list for the linebackers. But others to watch here: DeMario Tolan of Auburn, Austin Keys from Auburn, and then the other interesting names that you'll find on here: Jaheim Thomas, also someone who was rumored to be interested in Auburn interested in him, whichever way that was. To Arkansas, Jalen McLeod, which I just mentioned, listed as a linebacker here at Auburn. So 3 players here in that space on the others to watch list for the linebackers, but no Auburn Tigers at the linebacker position, and no Larry Nixon mentioned here, which a lot of people are very excited about with Auburn. Anything stick out to you about that one?
DeMario Tolan, I guess he's got to put on some weight on. Like, they've been talking about him maybe putting on some weight, but this was a guy that LSU was very,
their fans were super
upset about him when he left, right? Yeah. And so Tolan was interesting. Now Auburn picked up Austin Keys as well too, which was a big pickup. Linebacker was Achilles heel for Auburn. The linebacker room underperformed greatly. So got Wesley Steiner returning, who is, a great kid, but was out of position at times last year. And, they're going to be looking for a lot from that group because that defense has to figure out how to protect the second level. Like it's, it was brutal, man. When running backs got to the second level, and especially in the red zone, it was an adventure. Every red zone trip with those linebackers. So that's probably on the team outside of offensive line. The biggest area of improvement from a position group standpoint that Auburn had was at linebacker.
For sure.
That's it, man. I mean, it's flat out. So they brought in the guys. And then when we talk about the work that Hugh Freeze has done in the transfer portal, they really focused. I mean, I think they did such a great job focusing on areas that they actually needed to fill. They went after guys that they thought, were good team fits, good culture fits, but they also filled areas of need through the transfer portal and through recruiting. I thought they did a good job there. It's just going to be about proof of concept at this point. Can they put it together? Can they gel as a unit this offseason? And, who's going to emerge as a star at linebacker, this fall and fall camp. So, we'll keep an eye on all these guys to see who comes out on top.
That's going to be the interesting question for sure, is where are the stars, not the star position, but like the guys who are going to shine brightest at the position, specifically at linebacker. I don't even know what kind of rotation they plan to do, but Auburn needs somebody to come in and be an absolute monster in the middle of that front 7 there, specifically at the linebacker position. Anyway, we're going to transition here But we got to let you know about our guys at Harmon Mechanical. Make sure you lock in with Harmon Mechanical if you are in the Auburn area. Harmon Mechanical takes care of all your heating and air needs. They are servicing anybody down there that is dealing with the heat is here. If you didn't know and you're not in the South, we've been talking about it. The heat was coming. It's definitely here. In the shade, it's like 80, 90 degrees in a lot of places. Make sure you hit them up, harmonmechanical.com, or give them a call at 334-219-0717. Harmon Mechanical is there when you need air. Also, make sure that you lock in with the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com, using code Rapport20 now through July 6th to get a little bit of goodness for your soul. The Rogue Shop is America's #1 online dispensary now through July 6th. 20% off of edibles on the website using code Rapport20. They have 2 new edibles, live rosin 25 milligram gummies, all natural, no solvents. Make sure you hit them up. Tell them the War Report sent you. But we are going to get here to the comment section to hear what you all are talking about. Athlon releasing their 2023 all transfer team for the defense we're talking about today. We talked offense yesterday, so if you want to see who made that list, you can definitely go to their I might put the link in the I didn't put the link in the comments last time, whatever, but you can see the list right here. Just go to our video from yesterday and you'll have it on there. Anyway, Daniel Owen's going to get us jumped off in the comments here that says, still really worried about our pass rush this year. Any encouraging thoughts to talk somebody off the ledge here? Daniel Owen hovering on the edge, specifically about the edge.
Yeah, watch that jack position. We've talked about it again a lot on the show. And listen, his worry is warranted. Man, listen,
we didn't have a lot of production last
year. There was
year.
not a lot of pass rush, man. Yeah. And Auburn was middle of the pack in terms of sacks last year. They're going to have to up that number. And while I feel Auburn has a great defensive back room, you can't leave your DBs on an island, man. You got to get pressure on the quarterback. So this is a worry that is warranted, I think. And listen, they went out and they got the guys. I think, if I'm trying to talk you off the ledge, I'm telling you, listen, is there going to be some new faces there at that position, and hopefully some new bodies mean a new result in terms of what they are actually producing as it pertains to the pass rush, man. But keep an eye on the edge, man. Elijah McAllister and those guys are going to have to do the job in making sure Auburn can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, and what I'll say too is the Ron Roberts defense works a lot with simulated pressure. So, even if there are only 4 guys coming, they're coming from different places. So I would look out for guys who are playing the star position, who is that linebacker DB hybrid, to produce a lot of pressure coming off of a slot nickel position. I really do like Jalen McLeod and the effort that he brings in that jack room. So I think that if we do well on first and second down, when we get into a pass rush scenario, I think we have some guys who can come in as specialists that will definitely make the defenses have to say, okay, such and such is on the field right now. Right. And I think that we'll be in a position from a scheme perspective to not have to rely on guys just beating one-on-ones. We'll be doing a lot of movement, a lot of stunts, a lot of things that are going to create matchup problems just from the way that the scheme is presented. So look for that to be something that will help get the pass rush in a better position for Auburn.
Yep.
Let's get to Daniel Moultrie here, who says, when should players attending SEC media days be announced?
The week before media days. So, unfortunately, we're not going to find out until the 11th hour. I've sent these emails to try to get an idea of who they're taking. Ideally, you're taking your quarterback, but Auburn's got a lot of things going on at quarterback. Ideally, you're taking your star running back, but Auburn's got some things going on at running back. So I'd expect to see guys like Jason Jones, DJ James, possibly Luke Beal would be a great representative. If one of those guys I just named aren't on the list, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. If they're not one of the 3 from that group of 3, I'd be shocked as well.
I'd be shocked.
You could maybe throw a Tate Johnson in there as well as a potential.
Take a lineman, take an offensive lineman. But we'll be sure to report out on that as soon as we know.
Yep. All right. Next up, we've got James Barnett, who says, Ike, not shocked, especially when they feel we are only a top 7 defense in the SEC. Keep sleeping on us.
Yeah, I talked about this over on Blackerby's show this morning, the Locked on Auburn. We talked about the top defenses in the SEC over the last segment of that show. And they have Auburn listed around like 7th, but they put Arkansas at 5th. And I was just like, ugh, like, I don't know about that. Now, obviously
that's some T Will right there.
Yeah, right. Like, now, obviously they had the usual suspects at the top: Alabama, Georgia, LSU. But I feel like A&M had underrated defense last year. That was
A&M's defense helped them survive.
So yeah, right. I mean, and Auburn as well too. You're talking about 2 defenses that were hurt by complete ineptitude on the other side of the ball, right? So look out for. I mean, I think those guys to jump into the top 5 in the conference. I think Auburn has a top 5 defense.
I think we've got enough talent to do it. To your point, the offense has got to give you some help. Got to give you some help. And the bigger concern for me is not necessarily the pass rush, even though that is a concern. It's going to be the run defense and making sure that we can stop the run. And again, getting ourselves into 3rd and long situations. Jeremy Locke jumps in and says, Elijah will be a monster at edge, having confidence in Elijah McAllister coming over from Vanderbilt at that jack position.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. I think he's going to be a monster. And that's why they put him on this list. So watch out for him, man. It's going to be great to watch. There's enough new players here. Nobody really knows what this Auburn team is going to be. You can project it based on last year, but I'm telling you, do that to your detriment. They could come out and do some damage, man, in the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a completely different team, so it is difficult to predict. It's just weird to me. The predictions are so low for having so much more talent. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. Pete Pass jumps in and says, ask the spring game question. It adds to other conversations, encouraging us to go and ask them, hey, what do you think about playing, scrimmage against some other team for the spring game? It's still on my list of things to ask. So if it doesn't come up, then maybe I'll throw it in there to add a little paprika to the conversation. That's the first season I can think of. Paprika. Jeremy Locke again. No Austin Keys. What?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like this go to my point I just made about how nobody knows what this Auburn team is going to be, man. There's a lot of new players, and you're going to see some names, and you're going to be like, wait, what? And guys that we talked about even when they got picked up, but have already been forgotten about. That's what it feels like with Austin Keys. Huge pickup. People have already forgotten about him, but wait until the first 3-4 games of the season, man. You're going to see these names start to reemerge, and Auburn's going to surprise some people. I don't think 4-0 is off the table to start the season.
Oh, no, it's definitely on the table to start the season. We've got the opportunity to go to Texas A&M and make some noise, as well as going out west and handling business. So we'll see what happens here. Ronnie Stinson jumps in and says, Nixon is going to be a beast. He's getting slept on. Talking about Larry Nixon, the transfer from North Texas linebacker. Listen, had a lot of tackles in his career. We will see if he's able to come into Auburn and make a difference. More experience, more depth at the linebacker position. Definitely not something that is unneeded at Auburn. So we'll see how Larry Nixon can contribute when he gets here from North Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what Nixon can do.
Dana Jones jumps in. I do think Elijah's performance will surprise some people. Again, giving props to Elijah McAllister. And listen, man, there's not a lot of film out there on Vanderbilt's defense, so I've only looked at a few highlights and heard some people talking about him. It is going to be interesting to see kind of what he does. I think he is, another one of those guys, and we've talked about him a lot today. That's kind of been a forgotten man that people, to your point, you made this point about a few people. A lot of the guys that got picked up in that first cycle that were here for the spring, people just kind of forgot about him. Like they don't feel new anymore, and they forget, oh man, they've done a ton to turn this roster over. There's a lot of new faces at Auburn. It's going to be a completely different football team. Very much so looking forward to, and they got really good quality. I talked ad nauseum about, you're probably not going to get any difference makers in the second window. I don't know. Listen, man, they might have brought a starting quarterback and a starting wide receiver out of that group, and not just starters, but guys who are going to be high-level SEC contributors in that window. So kudos to Coach Hugh Freeze and that staff for telling me to shut up and being like, look, man, I can get quality, doesn't matter what the window is. So
yep, absolutely.
We'll see what happens with all of that as well. Eric Montgomery jumps in. I think Garrett's track record and coaching helps take these guys to another level. Talking about Jeremy Garrett, the defensive line coach that came over to Auburn in Coach Hugh Freeze's new staff.
His unit led the NCAA in sacks at Liberty. So it's going to be interesting to see, man, if he can prove. We just got through talking about pass rush, man. Jeremy Garrett, definitely, man, his impact should be felt early and often at Auburn, man. If he recreates any measure of what he did at Liberty here at Auburn. You know, we reported first on his, hiring. I think it was a big, important one for Hugh Freeze, and it's somebody that's known to him. So can he do it in the SEC? We'll see.
We will definitely find out soon enough. We'll end the show on this one right here. Definitely some tragic news for all SEC fans out there. Want to say, courtesy of Ant Robinson here in the comment section, a rest in peace to Ryan Mallett. For those that don't know, he passed this weekend. Or actually, I think it was just yesterday. He actually drowned out
on the Gulf Coast. Yeah. So in Florida.
And apparently, just from talking to some people, it's been a lot of riptide situations out there.
11 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So if you're planning trips out to the beach during the summer, man, just be respectful of the ocean because it will do its thing. Yeah. So make sure that you have all the precautions taken and be respectful of the warning signs that they put out there. But definitely RIP to Ryan Mallett. All of the people in the Arkansas fan base that are attached to him, definitely feeling that loss. So, we stand in solidarity with that.
Yeah, listen, Ryan Mallett was a great SEC quarterback. And he had some great games against Auburn. He was a high school football coach. He was loved in his community. And, you hate when these types of things happen. But our prayers and our condolences go out to his friends and family right now during this difficult time.
For sure. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate you all for continuing to drop in with us. Before you leave, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you share the content with somebody else. We'll be back at you all tonight. Please make sure you are here tonight. Big things to discuss tonight with you all. So we'll see you all at 7 p.m. Central right here back at the War Rapport. Once again, props and shout out to our sponsors. Make sure you go through and check out the Rogue Shop. Again, 20% off now through July 6th. We'll be back at you guys again tonight. And until then, man, War Eagle. Peace.
Drive!